What's going on, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move podcast. I'm here with JB Sport Talk and Dollface Gremlin. What's going on, gentlemen?
What up? How you guys doing?
Doing well, doing well. All right, I just thought we'd break down the Rams and Carolina Panthers game that starts here in a little bit, and then Green Bay and Chicago that starts off tonight. So. I'm looking at the weather here on rotogrinders.com, ROTO grinders.com for the Rams and Panthers game. They're saying that there's a good chance of rain at some point in this game, but it doesn't look likely that there's going to be just a heavy downpour throughout the entire game. Looks like more off and on rain showers. Winds, I'm seeing winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour in that game. And then notable injuries in this one on the offensive side of the ball. I'm seeing tight end Terrence Ferguson for the Los Angeles Rams is questionable to play with a hamstring issue. And then Jordan Whittington, wide receiver for the Rams, is out with a knee issue. Tight end Sanders for the Panthers is out due to a lower leg issue. But other than that, everything else seems pretty good on the offensive side of things. Have you guys heard about any defensive injuries on either side of the ball for these teams?
Let's see what I'm seeing right now. I saw both defensive tackles clear concussion protocol for the Panthers, so they're looking pretty good there. But I think they still have them questionable right now. So, but they clear concussion protocol, so I know that for the Panthers. So they're looking pretty good on defense. The Rams, I don't see anything for them right now, minus long-term injuries. Like as far as defense, like Josh Wallace, I'm seeing is questionable, but they're saying that he participated in practice.
All right. Thank you, Dollface Gremlin. Sounds good. Sounds good. Now, the Los Angeles Rams and the Carolina Panthers all-time series is tied at 2-2. So the Los Angeles Rams have won 2 all-time games. Panthers have won 2 all-time games. 3 out of 4 of the all-time meetings between these teams have been decided by exactly 3 points. Last that I checked, the Rams were favored to win by 10 points in this game. However, Carolina leads the all-time series 14-10 over the Rams. The Rams used to be in St. Louis, so 14-10 all-time against the Rams. Stafford has the quarterback for the Rams, Matt Stafford, has a 3-4 all-time career record against the Panthers. Bryce Young has a 1-0 career record against the Rams. Now, these teams did play on this exact date in 2004 in the playoffs, and the Panthers actually won that game 29-23 in double overtime. Now, JB, I think I heard you talking about how you like the Rams in this game. I think I heard this on a previous episode a couple of days ago. Do you still feel that way?
No, I see the Rams winning, right?
Okay.
But I'm going. I picked the Carolina Panthers. I picked
So
the
Carolina
Panthers,
to cover.
Yeah, I picked. Yeah.
So you think Rams win, Panthers cover in this one?
Yeah.
What's interesting to me, man, is I was thinking about this game all week, and I thought that I was going to come on the show and say I like the Rams to cover. Well, there were a couple of things that I saw this morning, and look, the Carolina Panthers are 8-0 against the spread after a loss, and they lost last week. So, I think a lot of people are going to be taking the Rams here, at least on the money line, to win this game. And I would expect that a majority of people also take them to cover. But I'm in that same boat with you, JB. I'm thinking the Rams do win this game, but Carolina loses by no more than 10 points. What are your first initial thoughts on this one, Dollface?
Um, I hate being one of those guys that says weather is going to play a factor into this a little bit, but I kind of do because the Rams don't see a lot of this wet type field as much as, say, the NFC South, right? Panthers literally last week in Tampa Bay played a wet game, so they're kind of used to this type of weather. It is an artificial field, so it's not going to be too wet. Maybe in some spots they do have a better drainage system than most natural fields. I think the Rams are going to win, but I agree. I don't know. I don't even know what to expect. I think maybe if they come out in the first half and they're ahead by say two scores, they can really take it in the second half. But if it's a close game in the first half, I think it's going to be a close game all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Then,
Yeah, I agree. I think that I do take on my picks. I take the Panthers to win on my picks.
gotcha. Now, these teams have played 12 all time games at Carolina. The Rams have only beat them by 10 plus points in three of those games. So, 25% of the games that these two teams have played in Carolina, the Rams have won by 10 plus points. That's another reason why I'm thinking Carolina may cover in this one. And, I was looking to see these teams played earlier this season with the Panthers winning 31 to 28. That was back in November 30th. And I was just looking at the box score and seeing what the recipe for the Panthers' success is in this game, and what worked well for them in that last game. Stafford in that game threw for two interceptions and fumbled once. Carolina actually had a defensive touchdown in that game. Uh, and the Panthers didn't turn the ball over at all. So I think, if Carolina can, it's going to be tough to force Stafford into three turnovers here again today. But, if they can maybe force one and protect the ball, I think that's a recipe for success for them. Also, I noticed that Carolina had more rushing yards than the Rams that game, 164 to 152. Carolina went 3 for 3 on fourth down conversions in that game, and Carolina won the time of possession by about 8 or 9 minutes. So, I think Carolina is going to have to you know replicate that performance somewhat. I think that's a pretty tall task, but still, they only won that game by 3 points. So, and they dominated all those facets that I just talked about. Now, when I'm looking at this game on paper, man, I'm giving the Rams a big passing advantage. They rank first in passing yards per game. The Panthers rank average. They rank 15th in passing yards allowed per game this season. Also, the Panthers were not accumulating very many passing yards per game throughout the season. Rams pass defense ranked 19th in passing yards allowed per game throughout the season. And then with that rushing attack, I got to give the nod to the Rams there again. I give them a big rushing advantage there. Really, everything that I look at, I give the Rams a big advantage. Big third down conversion advantage, big red zone conversion advantage, big red zone attempts per game advantage, sacks on the quarterback advantage, turnover differential advantage. So, we'll start with Dollface Gremlin. Who do you think for the Carolina Panthers has to step up in a big way today?
I think Carolina should kind of use Chuba Hubbard a little bit more this game, like they did the first game. Before Rico Dowdle officially took over the backfield, Chuba Hubbard was doing a good job earlier in the season. Well, later on in the season, when they faced the Rams, they relied heavily on him. Uh, Although they did have more rushing yards, you're looking at 17 attempts and 18 attempts from Chuba Hubbard and Dowdle. So they did a good job of still smothering that run just a little bit. I mean, yeah, they let up 83 for Hubbard and 58 for Dowdle, but I think the Panthers need to use Hubbard out of the backfield more. He is a better pass catcher out of the backfield than Dowdle, at least this year. Um, I think it'd be real smart if they bring him in on third down, maybe second, third down scenarios, disguised as a run play and use him more as an out of backfield or even, set up out of the backfield, split out and run routes. I think they can beat them that way. Other than that, I don't think the receivers are quite good enough to really carry the team throughout this game, unfortunately, against that Rams defense. I think they're going to struggle in the pass game unless they use the running backs.
Yeah, I hear you mention, that they should utilize Hubbard a little bit more in that rushing attack. Carolina ranks 23rd in passing play percentage this season, so they do call a higher percentage of rushing plays relative to other teams in the league, which really fits in the Rams' wheelhouse. I mentioned the Rams ranked 19th in passing yards allowed per game, but relative to other teams in the league, they ranked even better in rushing yards allowed per game this season. They ranked 12th. So I think what Carolina likes to do fits in what the Rams are good at defensively. But the Rams have allowed they ranked 11th best in the NFL in rushing yards allowed to running backs this season. I heard you mention Chuba Hubbard. Last that I checked, his over-under on rushing yards was 23 and a half. He's gone over that line in 9 out of 15 games this season. If we take that down to 20-plus rushing yards, we're looking at 10 out of 15 games this season. And then he's had 10-plus rushing yards in all 15 games this season. He's played 2 career games against the Rams. He had one game where he rushed for 83 yards, another one where he rushed for only 6. And then he has scored a touchdown in 1 out of 2 career games against the Rams. So, would you think Chuba Hubbard goes over those rushing yards today? 23 and a half. I'm kind of liking it.
I kind of like it too. What do they have set for Dowdle?
Dowdle's at 48 and a half.
I would in my opinion, I think I would go Hubbard more so than Dowdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dowdle's you guys been struggling past couple of weeks. He's needed 1 touchdown and 7 scrimmage yards total the past couple of weeks to cash in. I think he just barely got them 7 yards last week. And I'm pretty sure he never cashed in on that touchdown. And I've been banking on that and on some parlays, and it was never they weren't hitting.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard's last 4 games were atrocious rushing wise. I mean, we're looking at 10 yards last game, 12 yards the game before that, 27 the game before that, 29 the game before that. And then so Chuba Hubbard really the last 2 games over 20, no way. But I'm not. I think in this game maybe that this is going to be the Rams' slight downfalls. A little bit more usage of Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah. And, I did mention Hubbard has had 10-plus rushing yards in all 15 games this season, guys. So if you're looking for more of a safer play, you would be really unfortunate if Hubbard didn't pick up 10-plus rushing yards, considering that he's got there every game this season. And then let's talk about Dowdle's rushing a little bit here. He's gone over the 48 and a half rushing line in 9 out of 17 games this season. So Hubbard does have a higher success rate with his 23 and a half rushing line. And then Dowdle has had 40-plus rushing yards in 10 out of 17 games this season, 30-plus rushing yards in 13 out of 17 games this season. Anyways, Dowdle has gone over the 48 and a half rushing yard line in 1 out of 4 career games against the Rams, but he didn't have a rushing attempt in 2 of those games. So it's more like he's hit that line in 1 out of 2 career games against the Rams. He's had 18 and 58 rushing yard games against them. And then he has not scored a touchdown in any career game against the Rams. So Hubbard does have a touchdown against the Rams throughout his career. And, we'll get into the tight ends and receivers here in a bit. But, where I'm seeing that the Rams are weak at allowing touchdowns relative to other teams in the league is wide receivers receiving touchdowns against them and then tight ends receiving touchdowns against them. But, we'll get into that here in just a second. JB, I know that you've been kind of high on Bryce Young's rushing attack. His over-unders at 18.5 rushing yards. Now, the Rams have allowed the seventh fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. Do you think Bryce Young has 19-plus rushing yards today, JB?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's another rainy game like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, dude, he's been hitting it a little over a month. I don't see what's different, and it's the playoffs. He's got nothing to lose. That's what makes the Panthers a lot more dangerous than what people are taking them for. Is that they are on straight up borrowed money. Like, this is house money. This is Vegas money. They're not supposed to be here in the playoffs, guys. So them losing, like, they're just happy to be here. They thanks for the participation trophy. We'll take it. You know what I mean? Like, that they are further along with they even expected themselves this year, and that's great. That's awesome. Um, I think with that being said, like, dude, they're the most dangerous. I mean, you look at the Giants when they beat the Patriots. I mean, they were the wild card twice. They went 8-8, 9-7, not expected to win.
Yeah.
Give me the Panthers. Give me Bryce Young. Give me them rushing yards.
I've been a little bit more skeptical on Bryce Young's rushing attack this season. And I think I'm feeling that way in this game as well, but I can see it going either way. He's gone over the 18.5 rushing yard line in 5 out of 16 games this season. He's had 15-plus rushing yards in 6 out of 16 games, 10-plus rushing yards in 7 out of 16 games. But his only career game against the Rams, which was earlier this season, he did have 23 rushing yards, JB, but he did not rush for a touchdown in that game. But yeah, let's. I think somebody in the chat was talking about Hubbard's receiving line. Yeah, Hubbard's receiving line. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys kind of like Hubbard a little bit more in the pass catching game than Dowdle. Is that correct?
I definitely do. I mean, if you look at how this whole season has went, Chuba Hubbard with less targets by almost 20, I want to say, almost 20 less targets than I know Rico Dowdle got 50 targets this year for sure. And Rico Dowdle this year with his 50 targets had 39 catches with 297 yards. But Chuba Hubbard is what's really impressive. 39 targets, 30 catches, 223 yards, including a receiving touchdown against the Rams earlier this year in that very same game. Chuba Hubbard out of the backfield that last game, only 2 catches, 41 receiving yards for 2 catches, plus that one long touchdown. That was 35 yards. I like Chuba Hubbard. Like I said, I think he's a better receiving back. With that little of touches, but that almost the same amount of yards as Rico Dowdle, I think they're going to look to use him again out of the backfield in a receiving way against this Rams team since it was successful earlier this year.
Yeah, I like that take, man. And I see that the Rams have allowed the 5th most receiving yards to running backs this season, the 6th most receptions to running backs. Last that I checked, Hubbard over under 9.5 receiving yards. He's only gone over that line in 6 out of 15 games this season. So if you guys can drop that down to 5+, if you're looking for a more safer play, he's had 5+ receiving yards in 11 out of 15 games this season. And then he has gone over that 9.5 receiving line in 1 out of 2 career games against the Rams. He had a game where he had 41 receiving yards against them, and then a game where he only had 1. Also, he's had more yards per catch on grass than turf in every season that he's been in the NFL, and this is his 5th season, which is a bad trend for him. Just because of that trend, I think I'm going to have to stay away from it. But I totally get, your reasoning for it, Dollface Gremlin. I just wish that, he had more yards per catch on turf than grass in every season that he's been in the league. But, I
I
could
will.
I can still see him getting there for sure. He has done more with less. You're absolutely right about that.
I will say this: he has played very well this year against NFC West teams out of the backfield. That's when he has averaged the most yards receiving out of the backfield is against Arizona, San Fran, and the Rams. So those three teams specifically out of that side of the NFC West. Sorry about that, my mistake. The NFC West, he has had more averages for receiving yards. So that could be something to look at as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then let's see here. The receptions for Hubbard over under 1.5 receptions. He has a higher success rate of getting those 2 catches than he does getting the 10 plus receiving yards this season. He's had 2 plus receptions in 9 out of 15 games this season. If you guys can take that down to 1 plus reception, you're looking at 13 out of 15 games. Hubbard's had at least 1 reception in this season. Uh, he's had 2 plus receptions in 1 out of 2 career games against the Rams. He had exactly 1 reception and 2 receptions in those career games against the Rams. That's where I would be looking for more with the Hubbard. I could see them all hitting the receiving yards and receptions, but I would feel more comfortable with the Hubbard 2 plus receptions in this one. But one has to think if he does get two receptions, there's probably a pretty good chance that he picks up those 10 plus yards. So, anyways, let's talk about the wide receiving corp a little bit. I think we had Timbo Slice here that said that he likes Coker to score. Coker has played 1 career game against the Rams, which came earlier this year, and he did score a touchdown in that game. His over under on receiving yards today is 37.5. And the Rams have allowed the 10th most receiving yards to wide receivers this season. They've also allowed the 10th most receptions to wide receivers. And when I mentioned it just a few moments ago, I was talking about how the Rams, their biggest vulnerability relative to other teams in the league at touchdowns allowed is wide receivers receiving touchdowns and tight ends receiving touchdowns. Now, I think Coker is definitely worth a consideration there, Timbo Slice. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at McMillan in this one. McMillan does lead Carolina in red zone target share. And then Leggett actually ranks second in target share for Carolina. So I think people are going to be really looking for those guys, but Coker kind of go under the radar here. JB, who do you think has the biggest impact in this game out of that wide receiving corp for the Panthers? Is it going to be Ted McMillan, Coker, Leggett? Who are we thinking, man?
Oh man. You guys can still hear me, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Last week I wanted to pick this cat. So I want to pull this up quick. Okay. So we got the Panthers. We got the touchdown scorers. We got the okay. So let me see something. So I think he's gonna have some type of game, man. I like the most impact in that wide receiver room. Probably my thing is Tet is their guy, right? But who was that dude? I think it was Cooker. Cooker was doing decent last week, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Cooker? I'm pretty sure it was. I like Cooker or McMillan for real. I mean,
Yes, you're right
Trumbull.
about
I could see Trumbull getting a TD, getting a good, looking to get like 4 to 5 receptions. Nothing too big. Maybe 3 to 4. But I think he has a big game as a pretty decent game. I think he's Bryce Young's kind of his security blanket.
Mhm.
Um, he's tight end. So he's plus 600 on FD, and I think it's. I mean, make you a side to maybe. I wouldn't mind taking a shot at it. To be completely honest with you,
with Trimble.
Yeah, yeah. To be completely honest with you,
Yeah. Now
I think
he hasn't scored a touchdown in the two career games that he's played against the Rams, but I did mention that that's where the one of the Rams is. It's probably their second biggest vulnerability at touchdowns allowed is to that tight end position. So that might be a good look there, JB. Trimble does have two touchdowns this season as well.
yeah, I seen. I don't know. I like it, and with them for them to win, I'm just thinking for them to win, what do they got to do? And I think I think Trumbull gets into the passing game, as well. Like I said, as Cooker. I like them too. I personally might fade Leggett personally.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I haven't, to be completely honest with you, I haven't even gone through the app yet.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough, man. I think we have some. We'll talk about those wide receivers here in just a second. I'll get your take on that, Dollface Gremlin. But we have a question in the chat or a comment here. Rico Dowdle over the receiving yards. I know we kind of got away from that. Once again, the Rams have allowed the fifth most receiving yards to running backs this season, the sixth most receptions. Dowdle, last that I checked, blessed up, he was at over under 15 and a half. So that's what I did my work based off of. He's gone over that line in 7 out of 17 games this season. If we take that down to 10 plus receiving yards, we're looking at 11 out of 17 games. Dowdle's hit that. Um, and then he has gone over that line in 1 out of 4 career games against the Rams, the 15 and a half receiving yard line. But he didn't have a carry. He didn't have a rush attempt in two of those games. So I consider it more like 1 out of 2 career games. He has more yards per catch, blessed up P. Dowdle has more yards per catch when his team wins or ties rather than loses in every season that he's been in the NFL, except his rookie season. He didn't have a catch at all. And then, he hasn't scored a touchdown in any of those career games against the Rams either. And then the reception line, same success rate as the receiving line. He's gone over the 2.5 receptions in 7 out of 17 games this season. If we take that to 2 plus, we're looking at 11 out of 17 games this season. If you can get that at 1 plus, Dowdle for 1 catch today, he's hit that in 16 out of 17 games this season. And then he had exactly 2 receptions in the 2 career games against the Rams that he did have a carry. So, if you do like the Panthers to win today, blessed up P, which it sounds like, you're at least, you think, giving them a fighting chance. Um, I think I saw a comment that you had on a previous show earlier this week by some other Not Move podcast members. You were chanting Carolina in the chat. If you do like Carolina to win to win this game rather than lose, I'd give Dowdle even a bigger likelihood of hitting those receiving yards than if they lose. Now, what are you thinking about here, Dollface Gremlin? Who do you think has to make that big impact for that Carolina wide receiving corp? Is it going to be McMillan, Coker, Leggett, or even slide over the tight end position like JB was talking about with Trimble?
Yeah, I mean, I'd even like to see them use Mitchell Evans a little bit more. I mean, he's a young, big target. He's tall, 6'5". He could take advantage of those small DBs and small linebackers down the middle. They're not going to. They haven't utilized him very well this whole year, to be quite honest. I understand that he's a rookie and he has to prove himself, but that's just something. You got a big body who can catch a ball, use it across the middle. And this is the type of team you said earlier. They're letting up receiving yards. They're letting up receptions to the running backs. Sixth, you said, sixth most and sixth most for receptions. Well, maybe decoy some of that running back receptions and start focusing on your tight ends. I agree with JB. The tight end situation should be where they're at because, the last few games that the Panthers have played, if you've been looking and watching, it's McMillan and Coker, 100%. They're just attacking them with their targets. And that's going to be easy to defend in the playoffs. This is where everybody steps up. So I think long way to put it. I think they need to use their tight ends, and I hope they use some Mitchell Evans action as well as Tremblay.
Mhm. Um, I'll go ahead and ramble off some stats here for the wide receiving corp. McMillan over under 55 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that line in 9 out of 17 games this season. Even if you drop that down to 50 plus, guys, you're still looking at 9 out of 17 games this season. 40 plus, now we're looking at 12 out of 17 games this season. And then he had exactly 43 receiving yards in his only career game against the Rams. Once again, he did score a touchdown in that game. And then Coker over under 37 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in 5 out of 11 games this season, 30 plus in 7 out of 11 games this season, 20 plus in 8 out of 11 games. And then he had 74 yards and a receiving touchdown in his only career game against the Rams, which was earlier this season. And then Lee Getz over under 15 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that line in 8 out of 15 games this season, and then 10 plus receiving yards in 11 out of 15 games this season. So if I had to pick one of those guys to go over their true receiving yard line, I think I will go with Coker, just because he has shown me that he can go over that line earlier this season against the Rams. And he's been, one of the, um, 5 out of 11 games this season, so almost 50%, almost half of his games he's gone over that line. So that's probably where I would be leaning towards. I think the highest success rate percentage wise is Leggett over the 15 and a half receiving line, 8 out of 15 games this season. He's hit that. And then, Leggett also has gone over his reception line, the 1.5 reception line in 9 out of 15 games this season. So he has a higher success rate going over his reception line than the other two receivers have at going over theirs. All right. And then, just so everybody knows in the audience, the Rams ranked 7th best in receiving yards allowed to tight ends this season. So they've done a pretty good job at containing yardage gained by the tight ends receiving, but they did rank 15th worst, so about average in receptions allowed to tight ends. So, the receptions is probably where I'd be looking at first and foremost with that. All right, now let's get into the good stuff here. Oh, I also just want to mention real quick that the Rams are not immune to allowing a good chunk of yardage through the air. They did allow the 12th most 20 plus yard receiving gains this season. McMillan had 17 20 plus yard receiving gains this season, which, I'm looking at all these other guys that I have on my notes here. None of these other guys, even if you combine them, maybe if you combined them, have 17 20 plus receiving yard gains this season. So McMillan, I think he could really capitalize on that weakness by the Rams there. Okay. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about the Rams here a little bit. Dollface Gremlin, who do you think is the X factor for this Rams offense here today?
I think it's going to be Devonte Adams in the red zone. If they can get into the red zone, he's going to be the determining factor. I also think Higbee is going to be a nice factor as well. One thing the Rams really have going for them is if they're on third down, the Panthers are one of the worst third down defenses in the league. So they can take a shot if they want to. Like if they're close enough and they're in that zone, they can take a shot. The Panthers are not good. And also, Devonte Adams has been incredible in the red zone this year. I just think if they get down there, watch out. He's probably going to have one-on-one coverage in the corner, and that's going to be that.
Yeah, he absolutely has been. He actually ranks third uh, highest in the NFL in red zone targets out of any player in the NFL. So yeah, man, he's been a huge red zone threat. Now, when I'm looking at Devonte Adams' history against Carolina, he has scored a touchdown in 3 out of 7 career games against them. He's scored exactly 2 touchdowns. He had a 2 touchdown game in 1 out of 7 career games against Carolina. So if you were thinking about taking Devontae Adams for 2+ touchdowns today, yes, anything can happen, guys. But he does only have that in 1 out of 7 career games against Carolina, whereas he has scored a touchdown in 3 out of 7 career games against them. And before we move on, talking about maybe potential touchdown scores here for the Rams, I kind of wanted to see where Carolina's vulnerable at in regards to touchdowns allowed. And it looks like they are most vulnerable at allowing running backs rushing touchdowns this season. And one has to think if the Rams are going to be up in this game and controlling the game, that they're going to be able to run a little bit more, maybe even in the red zone. So it really comes to no surprise that Kyron Williams and Blake Corum both rushed for a touchdown against Carolina earlier this season. And that's probably where I would be looking at first and foremost here again today, just based off of Carolina's, lack of running back rush defense when it comes to allowing touchdowns. But Devontae Adams, he can get it done against anybody, and so let's see some other stuff here. And what do you think is the factor here, JB, for the Rams today? What do you think that they have to do well? Who's got to
Oh
step up?
man. Um. mm-mm. I think they gotta make sure to get that running game going. Um. Really, like, who's a step up on that team, man? It's kind of hard to say because um I really see him like failing, right? Like needing to step up. Somebody's always going off on that team, and I think like who has the game today. I think it's gonna be Puka. Mike Graham says I think Devontae in the red zone. I think getting that going. Um I think he's the most favored to get the end zone work anyways, score. But yeah, I like them and Williams. Get Williams going.
Yeah, relative to other teams in the league, Carolina's worse at defending against that rush. In regards to yards allowed per game, they ranked 20th in rushing yards allowed per game this season, whereas in that pass defense, they ranked 15th. But the Rams ranked first in passing yards per game this season. So I think absolutely if the Rams have to pass the ball, and they may even opt to at some points in the game, to pass the ball a little bit. I think that they can. They're absolutely talented enough with all of their weapons, Stafford and Nakua and Devontae Adams. I know those are the two players that people are really interested about. So let's talk about Nakua over under 90.5 receiving yards.
I think Parkinson. I Colby Parkinson.
Parkinson, yeah, we'll get to
Yeah.
that too. Yeah, I'm thinking Colby Parkinson might have a nice little game here today too. All right, so Nakua over under 90.5 receiving yards. Carolina, they actually rank 8th best in the NFL in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. So they've done a good job at defending against that wide receiver position this year. They rank 9th best in receptions allowed to wide receivers. Nakua's gone over the 90.5 receiving yard line in 9 out of 16 games this season. He's had 80 plus in 10 out of 16 games, 70 plus receiving yards in 13 out of 16 games this season. If you want to drop that down to 60 plus receiving yards, you're looking at 14 out of 16 games. He's hit that this season. Or if you're looking to tease him up a little bit, go to 100 plus receiving yards. You're looking at 5 out of 16 games this season. But he did have 72 receiving yards in his only career game against Carolina. Also, Nakua has more yards per catch in games that his team wins rather than loses in all 3 seasons that he's been in the NFL. So if you guys like the Rams to win today, I do give Nakua a better chance to hit those receiving yards. Personally, I just got a feeling that Nakua is going to catch a touchdown today. I don't I don't really see enough information to make me love this receiving line for him, but I just got this weird feeling in my bones that he's going to get a touchdown today. But I'm not here to necessarily talk about how I'm feeling about it. Here to give you guys some statistics. So, but Dollface Gremlin mentioned Devontae Adams earlier today. He likes him for a possible red zone threat, which he most certainly is. Now, over under 54 and a half receiving yards for Devontae Adams. He's gone over that in 9 out of 14 games this season. So he has a higher success rate going over his receiving line today than Nakua has going over his. And then if we took Adams down to 50 plus, we're looking at 10 out of 14 games this season, 30 plus receiving yards, 12 out of 14 games this season. Now, Devontae Adams has had 55 plus receiving yards in 4 out of 7 career games against Carolina. But if we take that down to 40 receiving yards, he's hit that in 6 out of 7 career games against Carolina. So I think 40 plus looks pretty good here for Devontae Adams. Once again, he's had 40 plus receiving yards in 10 out of 14 games this season. You pair that with the fact that he's had 40 plus receiving yards in 6 out of 7 career games against Carolina. That's statistically looking appetizing there. And then, the reception line. Nakua's had 8 plus receptions in half of his games this season compared to Devontae Adams having 5 plus in 6 out of 14 games. So, once again, I think I would drop Adams down to – I would take that hook off and take Adams for 4 plus receptions today. He's hit that in 6 out of 7 career games against Carolina, and then he's hit 4 plus receptions in 12 out of 14 games this season. But, yeah, I just got this feeling Nakua is going to get into the end zone there. And then, JB, I heard you were talking about Colby Parkinson. Is that right?
Yeah, buddy.
Carolina's been weak at defending receiving yards allowed to tight ends this season, 8th worst. Parkinson, last that I checked, over under 18 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in 9 out of 14 games this season. In fact, he's gone over that in 7 straight games. And then he's had 10 plus receiving yards in 12 out of 14 games this season. He's gone over the 18 and a half receiving yard line in 2 out of 3 career games against Carolina. And if we took Parkinson down to 10 plus receiving yards, guys, he's gone over that in every career game against Carolina, which is 3. So you like him more than Higbee today, JB? Or do you like them both, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I like them both, but I mean, I like Parkinson.
Higbee. Yeah,
I like Parkinson. Higbee probably have a big day, but okay. It's just like Blessed Up said. You got whatever Mumfield props. There's none of them.
Yeah.
Watch them have a field day while everybody else is just picking the usual suspects. I'm going outside the box. Like I said, I'm picking Carolina. I'm picking Parkinson.
Yeah, watch Mumfield do a little something.
That's how a lot of the last couple of weeks have been going. Mm-hmm. We've been picking all these big namers, consistent guys, and I get it. It's playoffs going, but like, I mean, hey man, just watch for it. You got to pick a sleeper every once in a while. I got a couple.
Let's see here. And then, that rushing attack, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, Carolina allowed the 8th most rushing yards to running backs this season. Who do you feel like Dollface Gremlin has, a bigger impact in this one? Kyron Williams or Blake Corum, or both of them get a little bit done here on the ground today?
I think it's going to be both of them get done. They'll probably rely on Kyron more for the running load. They'll give him more rushing attempts, but Blake Corum against the same team in that game rushed for 81 yards on only 7 attempts against the Panthers, while Kyron got the bulk of the rushes with 13 and he had 72 yards. but they let Blake Corum bust one off for 30 plus yards. I think it was 34 yards in that game. I would be wary about that in this game too. I think that the Rams are going to try and force feed, like you and JB said, they're going to force feed that run and maybe use it to open a pass game. So yeah, I think Kyron's going to get some heavy rushing targets, attempts. He's going to get the bulk, but I think I can see Blake Corum definitely getting 50 plus rushing yards.
I'm in the same boat, man. I see both of them got a touchdown in their last game against them, and Kyron Williams had 72 rushing yards. Blake Corum had 81. Both of them had a touchdown. Um, Carolina has allowed the ninth most 20-plus yard rushing gains this season. Kyron Williams has 6 of those. Corum has 5 of those. So I could definitely see them both coexisting here again today. Um, Now I'm looking at these lines. Now Kyron Williams has gone over his 65.5 rushing yard line 12 out of 17 games this season, compared to Blake Corum, who's only gone over his 43.5 rushing yard line in 9 out of 17 games this season. But once again, both of these guys went over what those lines are set at today, back when they played earlier this season. Um, let's have a little bit of fun here, guys. Matt Stafford, over under 0.5 rushing yards. Do you guys think that he gets a rushing yard today? Carolina ranked 5th best at defending rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks this season.
Oh, man, that's tough. That's
Flip a coin type of moment.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're feeling lucky, you know what I'm saying? Why not?
Uh, I'm going to put it to you this way. In the last 4 games, Matt Stafford has been sacked 6 times. There was only one game in those last 4 games that he did not get sacked. And surprisingly, it was against Seattle, the tougher team. But against the Panthers, he got sacked twice and had -1 rushing yard, which
Ooh,
Matt Stafford has had negative rushing yards 5 times this. No, 5 times this year. He has had negative rushing yards. I don't want to put anything towards
not moved.
rushing
I'm
for
not
Matt
moved by.
Stafford.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm not
not
moved
moved
by
by
Matt
him.
Stafford's rushing
Yeah.
yards. No, I'm not moved by it.
We
Fair
talk passing, we'll get moving with that all day. But rushing, no thank you. I'm out.
Not moved by it.
Fair enough, guys. And he has had the 1+ rushing yard in 6 out of 17 games this season. And he actually has had 1+ rushing yard in 4 out of 7 career games against Carolina. So more times than not, Stafford has gone over that. Yeah, but I don't see anything that makes me just that says, oh, I have to play this. If I were to have to choose, I would say he does pick up that 1 rushing yard today. And then just a little fun fact, guys, he has never rushed for a touchdown in 7 career games against Carolina. But, I heard you talking about that passing attack there, Dollface Gremlin, and that's something that we have not touched on yet. Carolina, they were about average in passing yards allowed to quarterbacks this season. Last that I checked, Matt Stafford over under 266.5 passing yards, which he's gone over that line in 10 out of 17 games this season. Let's see here. He's only gone over that line in 2 out of 7 career games against Carolina. Do you feel like Stafford, gets the 267 or more passing yards today, Dollface Gremlin?
Logic would tell me no, just given his games against Carolina in the past and looking at Stafford the last few games. Uh, I think I think he's going to. I Something about this game is chasing me towards the Rams passing. Just they're I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the McVay magic because I believe in their head coach more so than I believe in the Carolina Panthers head coach. And maybe it's because I know Matthew Stafford has a better arm than Bryce Young still. I think Matthew Stafford is going to go over that number today.
Fair enough. What are you thinking, JB? Stafford
And
267 plus?
yeah. It's like Denver Dev over here said. He said if any team is the team to give up multiple rushing yards to Stafford, it is the Panthers. Um, but yeah. I want to go over that. Absolutely, we're going over. He's got all of his weapons healthy. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. I think I don't know how statistically correct I am, but I would think that the more competitive game this is, the bigger likelihood it is for Stafford to go over those passing yards. Whereas if the Rams are up 30-0 at halftime, he might not need to pass a whole lot more, from there on out. And I got this being a competitive game. So, yeah, even though he's only hit that line in 2 out of 7 career games against Carolina, I have to lean towards him hitting that as well, guys. And then we had a question in the chat. Tyler Higbee, yards and or receptions. Higbee, the tight end for the Rams, he's gone over the 24.5 receiving yard line in 5 out of 9 games this season. Blessed up, P. He's in. If you took it to 20 plus, you're looking at 6 out of 9, 10 plus, 8 out of 9. Now he's only gone over that line in 1 out of 3 career games against Carolina. But if we took that down to 20 plus, we're looking at 2 out of 3 career games against him. So I would feel more comfortable with Higbee at 20 plus receiving yards there, blessed up P, instead of the over 24.5. And then Higbee over under 2.5 receptions. He's gone over that line more times than his receiving yard line this season. He's hit the over 2.5 receptions in 6 out of 9 games this season. But only 1 out of 3 career games against Carolina did he accomplish that. If you want to take that to 1 plus reception, you're looking at all 3 career games he's had at least 1 reception against Carolina, and then 8 out of 9 games this season he's had at least 1 reception. Carolina is worse against defending against the receiving yards than they are the receptions to tight ends. So I would lean more towards Higbee going over those receiving yards than those receptions. But speaking of blessed up P, I remember back in week 13 or so, guys, Atlanta, the Falcons ranked first in passing yards allowed per game. And blessed up P down here in the chat was talking about how Bryce Young was going to have a good passing game. And I didn't really believe him, but lo and behold, Bryce Young threw for 400 plus passing yards, I think it was that game. If not, it was in the high 300s. His line today, guys, is set at 190.5, and the Rams ranked 13th worst, so a little below average in passing yards allowed to quarterbacks. What do you guys think about Bryce Young today? Do you think he gets 191 plus? Same with you, blessed up P. What do you think about it?
I don't like Bryce Young. I don't think so today. I think today's not going to be his day. I know JB thinks Panthers are going to pull it off. I don't know. Something about this game is telling me it's going to be a Ram swarm.
JB, Bryce Young, 191 plus passing yards. He's hit that in 7 out of 16 games this season. And then his only career game against the Rams, which was earlier this year, he did have 206 passing yards.
how much did he have in the Rams against the Rams?
What's that?
How much did he have against the Rams? You said
190.5. How much did he have against the Rams? 206 earlier this season against them.
Mm. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say that again, he has nothing to lose and he's got to do everything he has to win. And yeah, I'm going with it. I'm gonna say he does.
I think that the Panthers have a better chance at moving the ball through the air than they do on the ground today. Now, if the absolute opposite happens, I wouldn't be surprised because that's just how football works sometimes. But statistically, it looks like they're going to have a better chance through the air today. So, statistically speaking, I'm thinking Bryce Young does, go over those passing yards here today. And
We got a couple comments over here on TikTok.
okay.
D says he possibly could do it, but how good does his O line play? Will they be able to run first or pass? And then Denver Dev, he says something is drawing me to the Jalen Cooker over 37.5, or even his alternate line at 20. I don't know why though.
When I'm looking at my notes here, um, you know, Carolina's done a decent job at protecting Bryce Young this season. They ranked 12th in sacks allowed per game. The Rams did rank 7th in sacks per game, though. So I think he'll be under a little bit of pressure today. But
They got him
His
last game twice too, so they did get to him last game, and but he did also rush for 23 yards in that same game.
and he
mhm.
says, will they run better or pass better? That's what he was trying to say. Will they
I'm
run
thinking,
better or pass better?
I'm thinking passing better. And yeah, I liked Coker, man. And I think the question was, did he want to take Coker for 20 plus receiving yards, right, JB?
Right. Um, yeah, 37 and a, he says, draw me to the Jalen Coker, 37, over 37.5, or even his alternate line at 20. I don't,
Well, he's hit the over 37 and a half in 5 out of 11 games this season. So more times than not, he has not gone over that line. However, he did have those 74 receiving yards against the Rams earlier this season. So that's good. But he's had 20 plus receiving yards in 8 out of 11 games this season. And I'm not too familiar with him. I'm not sure if this is a first year guy. He's only been in the league for 2 seasons. We don't have a whole lot of history with this guy. Um, I'm going to look at his splits here on ESPN.com just to see. I'm seeing that both seasons that he's played in the NFL, he has more yards per catch at home than on the road, which is a good trend for him today. And then turf versus grass splits. Looks like he's had a lot more receiving yards on turf this season, grass last season, more yards per catch. So I would feel more comfortable at 20 plus, but obviously, you got to pay a price for that to pay out.
Honestly, I really think the best thing to look at today is rushing against the Rams defense. If
Really?
Yeah, the last 6 games they have allowed at least a minimum of 115 yards on the ground. So I'm willing to bet that they would allow again close to 100 plus yards on the ground. I just there's something about this rushing defense that has not been consistent all year. They have
mm,
allowed more 100-yard games than they didn't allow this year. Now that
Wow.
doesn't, that's not saying a lot, but this year, the Rams have allowed more 100-yard rushers against them than they have not. So I'm willing to go and look at that line right
the
there.
only
Is
thing that I don't like about that is, but then again, yet again, I like it though, is the field conditions, right? Last week, Rico Dow, he went to go hand him the ball off, and he slipped like as soon as he got the ball. Like 3 times he was behind the line, and one of them uh, resulted in a turnover. I think that is, man, that right there really worries me about their footing because and last thing I checked is it's supposed to be, or last thing I heard, not checked, sorry, was it was supposed to be pretty rainy
Yeah.
and cold out there.
Yeah, for the first half. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know about how that turf, that field is gonna be out there. You know what I'm saying? I That's the only thing that worries me, and I don't know how well they did last week in the rain on the ground either.
No, they didn't do very well on the ground last week. Partially, I think it's a twofold thing. It's one, it's the weather, and two, the Buccaneers field is not very good when it has to deal with inclement weather. If you've noticed in the past,
So
so
what's the
they
Bucks?
only had 19 rushing yards last game because of that. So you may be right. Maybe the weather is going to impact this. Plus, they're playing on turf though, and the Bucks, I believe, they have an all natural field. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, and their
So
grass is a little weird too out there in Tampa.
so I'm wondering maybe if this is just going to be a safer bet on the ground given the different field conditions. Yes, it's going to be rainy, but maybe because of this artificial turf that they use might be a little bit better for them. I still I just that
Maybe you
when
might
you're
be on something.
when you're looking at the Rams and you're looking at their weak points, the only thing that I can see is they're rushing. You rush the Rams defense, and that's where it looks like people can succeed.
I like it. They got Dev over here says, how do we feel about the quorum over 9.5 rushing attempts? Supposed to be rain there, might be free. And
Rushing it,
then D says
rushing,
the
Wow.
oh, go on. Sorry.
rushing attempts takes a little bit more time for me to look at. Now, Carolina did allow the eighth most rushing attempts this season to opposing running backs. Eighth most rush attempts. So then I would just take Blake Corum's, his total rush attempts that he's had this season, divide it by the amount of rush attempts that Carolina allowed, which is 394, and then that's probably right around what he's going to get. But do you guys have any take on that? Whether or not he's going to get over those rushing attempts or not?
So
Um,
since Carolina, he has had two games against Carolina and Atlanta where he did not touch the ball 10 times.
yeah, I don't like the for quorum. I don't like the over on that.
Yeah, and then you were already saying earlier, Dollface Gremlin, that you feel like Williams is really going to get the bulk of that work in regards to rush attempts, right?
I do. I think they're going to give him the bulk of the load. Like Cora might get his yardage, like whatever that was, 65, I believe you said,
Hmm.
65 and a half. I think Corum could get that, but it's only going to be like he did against Carolina, 5, 6, 7 carries.
Right.
I think it's gonna be a Williams heavy rushing attempt game.
Yeah.
And I think another thing worth looking at, guys, if you're interested in Corum's rushing attempts, is does he typically get more rushing attempts in blowout victories or in close competitive games? And which one do you feel like is going to happen? If you feel like it's going to be a blowout, and if he's getting more touches in blowout games, then there you go. Or if you think it's going to be close and competitive.
I was just about to bring that up, Betters. It's like I'm glad you mentioned it because if you're looking at the quorum data where it's games where they win by a wide margin, that is the majority of where he's getting more touches. You know, the win against Arizona 45-17, he had 12 touches.
Hmm.
The real close games that he actually had a lot of touches required overtime. Seattle, where he had 14 touches. That was a close competitive game. I guess you could consider the Detroit game close, but we know that that game was a lot different in the
Yeah.
second half, and he had
Yeah.
11 barely in that one. But then you look at the other one, San Fran, 13 blowout win, New Orleans, 13 blowout win, uh, Jacksonville, 12 blowout win. Every other game, the only close game was the Seattle game, really.
Hmm. Yep. I
Um,
agree.
I think
Uh,
that
uh,
about does it with this breakdown on this game. Unless you guys
well,
had
we
anything
got
else to add.
one more thing on TikTok. D Vikings fan shouts out and says, "Do y'all feel like Carolina's running game has digressed in the last few weeks? That's how Atlanta beat them, right?" Um,
I don't
I
see.
think
I think
so.
it has regressed because they're playing tougher competition that we're desperate to get in the playoffs.
Good
It's
That
a
point.
makes
twofold.
sense.
It's a twofold thing because since their bye week, they played the Saints, who at the time were, I think, what 7-7. I want to say they were breaking even there. So the Saints think with the Bucks in Carolina, they might have a shot to win the division. So of course the Saints are
Right.
playing hard. They played the Bucks twice in that span, where the Bucks they played them hard because obviously it was for the division, and they played the Seahawks, who are the number one seed in the NFC. So I think yes, it's gonna be a tougher attempt to rush the ball because this is the playoffs. This is it.
Yeah. And, I'm looking at the last three games, right, that the Panthers have played. They rank fourth worst in rushing yards per game compared to, throughout the season, they ranked, 19th. So, yeah, I feel like it definitely has regressed. But I do also just want to mention. I know both know who this is, Jake Delhomme. It's his birthday today.
Yep.
Who used to be
Mm.
quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. And at the start of this segment, I mentioned that these two teams played on this exact date in 2004 in the playoffs. It's the only playoff game that these teams have ever played against each other. And in that game, the Panthers won. I think it was in double overtime. Double overtime where Jake Delhomme uh, threw a walk-off touchdown, 69-yard walk-off touchdown pass to Steve Smith in that game. So I'm just curious to see if Jake Delhomme is going to be in the building today for his birthday and watching this game with the Panthers. If he is, I gotta like the Panthers to cover at least even more. I think going out, I think the Panthers winning this one is a long shot, but I definitely give them a better chance to win if Jake Delhomme is in the stands today.
Oh, I think he's going to be in the building. Here's the deal, man. Since Cam Newton, I believe this is like the first time that they've been like really in the playoffs, like like this. You know what I mean? So it's like once in a generation quarterback. You know,
Um,
he'll be there. What's
you
up,
said
Bo?
you said Stafford under passing touchdowns. I mean, I'm going to assume blessed up P that it's at over under 1.5, which he's only gone over that in 3 out of 7 career games against Carolina. So yeah, and I just think the Rams have a better chance at scoring on the ground today with Williams and or Corum than they. But I absolutely think they can score if they need to. Uh, in that pass game, I just think you know my first look's going to be those running backs. So yeah, I would say under the passing touchdowns. Or what do you guys think? 2+ passing touchdowns for Stafford today, or no?
I think 2+ passing. Yeah,
You do.
I
yeah,
think he could get 2 for sure.
yeah. I think very easily. I think one of them. I think you're looking at possibly like a 3. I think one's going to be hitting on a tight end, and then I think one will go to either wide receiver, if not Devontae just eating it up. You know.
Oh, the over under the total projected total in this game, and then we'll move on to the next game. Over under 45.5 total points. Now the Rams, these teams have played. I mentioned earlier that these teams have played 12 all-time games at Carolina. 6 of those games, half of those games, had 46 plus total points. Now this season, the Rams were 10-7 to the over. They were actually 5-1 to the over as a road favorite. And then Carolina was 7-10 to the over this season, 4-3 to the over as a home underdog. Do you guys think that this game, there's 46 plus total points scored in it? What's your final score predictions, guys?
Hmm. It's tough because it's the playoffs. I want to think the game is going to be close, right? This is where everybody steps up. I just, I don't know. I think the Rams are gonna make a statement, and I think we're looking at like a 32-17 game, a 32 to maybe 16 or 17 in favor of the Rams.
And I don't know if it was you that said this. I was listening to another episode of the podcast. Somebody said the Rams are going to come out and take that loss that they had just a couple of weeks ago to the Panthers pretty personally, and come out and just roll the Panthers. So, yeah, 32 to what'd you say, 17, Grim?
I think 32-17.
JB?
Oh man, I'm gonna say it's 24-27 Carolina.
Oh, 27-24
Yeah,
Carolina.
27. Yep.
I'm gonna have to lean towards that over on this one as well. So over the 46 total points. what was that? The final score when they played on this exact date in 2004 was 29-23. So I'm going to go with that score there, but I'm going to say the Rams get it done. 29-23 Rams. Do you guys have any other things you want to add to, for this game? Or should we move on to the next one?
I'm good.
2.5 there, blessed up P. He's only hit that in 1 out of 7 career games against Carolina. The 3+ passing touchdowns. All right. So the next game, Green Bay at Chicago. Let's go look at the weather. I'm seeing that a few snow showers or flurries are possible, according to rotogrinders.com. I'm seeing it's cold and breezy. Wind should come in around 15 miles per hour sustained. Gusts around 25 miles per hour. And when I'm looking at the injury reports, I'm seeing, backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, Malik Willis, is questionable with a shoulder / hamstring issue. Now, even if
Shout out TikTok.
even if he does play, even if he does suit up, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get any playing time as Jordan Love is projected to start today. But I do want to just mention, Malik Willis. If he's unable to go, Desmond Ridder would be the backup for the Packers today. And then Wicks, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, is out with a concussion. Bo Melton, wide receiver for the Packers, out with a knee issue. Tucker Kraft, we know he's out. In case you didn't know, there you have it. He was their tight end for Green Bay throughout the year. So that's a pretty big hit to this Green Bay team. Savion Williams out with a foot issue. Other than that, that looks like about it of the notable offensive injuries. But as we know, Parsons is unavailable for this game, if I'm not mistaken, right, guys?
Yep.
So do you have anything on the defensive side of the ball there, Grim?
So looking at it here, the Bears have some significant loss on defense. The Packers look pretty decent besides like what you said, offensively, Wicks is the only one out. Defensively, I'm seeing they have pretty much most of their guys cleared, but the Bears look like they might be in rough shape on their injury report for defense. They've got 3 big names out right now.
All right. And then, Green Bay does lead the all-time series against Chicago. Green Bay has 109 wins, 97 losses, and then 6 ties. So they do lead the all-time series. So if Green Bay wins this game, they will get their 110th all-time victory against Chicago on today's 110. 110. So I think that's pretty. I don't know. That's a pretty cool coincidence.
Pretty sickening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a coincidence, 110th all-time win against Chicago on 110. With that being said,
Yes, I like it.
all week I was thinking Rams blow out Carolina, right? Then I just thought about it a little bit this morning and said, you know what? I like Carolina to cover, but Rams to win. Here's another game where all week I was thinking Chicago. I'm going to go with Green Bay in this one, guys. They've won the last 12 out of 15 meetings. They've won the last 12 out of 15 meetings. And I would do money line too. You may think, 1.5 points. What's that? It seems like quite often where I see a team is favored by 1.5 points, people take the 1.5, and that team ends up winning by exactly 1 point. But anyways, Green Bay has won the last 12 out of 15 meetings against Chicago. Green Bay has won the last 17 out of 20 meetings against Chicago. Green Bay has beat Chicago in Chicago the past 13 out of 15 games that they've played at Chicago. Caleb Williams, quarterback for the Bears, has a 2-2 career record against the Packers, and Jordan Love has a 4-2 career record against Chicago. Both of these teams are coming off of a Week 18 loss. Um, Chicago is better against the spread. They're 10-7 against the spread compared to Green Bay's 7-10 against the spread record. And here's another reason why I'm a little where I think Green Bay's going to win by exactly 1 point is because Green Bay has a 1-5 against the spread record as a road favorite. So, whereas Chicago is 1-0 against the spread as a home underdog. Where are you guys leaning towards in this one? Who do you like? JB, we'll start with you. Green Bay or Chicago?
Man, I am going the exact opposite. Okay. It's crazy. I'm going Chicago Bears. All right. I like what I see in Ben Johnson, what he's been able to do. He's completely, hey, appreciate you, new subscriber. He's been able to turn that franchise completely around. With the addition of Eric Bieniemy at the running backs coach, that running game, I believe, is the best running game in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's like it ranks, third best this season in rushing yards per game. Real good.
Yeah, like they're awesome. Another seventh round running back from Rutgers, just like Isaiah Pacheco, that Eric Bieniemy turned into a gem in his rookie second year. Okay, and Mangona or whatever his name is. All right,
Manungai.
Manungai. Yeah. So I think that is a big advantage for Chicago, especially against the Packers. I think that if Micah Parsons would not have got hurt and been there right now, that there's a different story to that. I think there'd be a lot more disruptive. I think that now with the lack in their pass rush, now they gotta they're gonna be. I know they went and got Diggs in the secondary, but realistically, what is Diggs gonna do? I don't know. I just see the Bears taking over.
You like the Bears in this one, JB?
Yeah, I like Chicago, bro. Give me Chicago.
Dollface Gremlin, what side are you leaning towards right now?
My heart leans with the Bears because I like seeing that they're finally back to their winning ways. I like seeing when franchises come up from the bottom again.
Yeah.
But I don't like what I've seen from the Bears the last 3 weeks. Since their blowout win against the Browns, they barely beat the Packers in that overtime game. That was a lot closer for comfort than they think. Then they got that loss to the 49ers. It looked a lot worse than the score indicates. And I think everybody will agree with me on that. The 49ers had control of that game. So I see a score 42-38. Anybody from the outside looking in is like, wow, that must have been close. No, not as close as it seems. And they lost to the Detroit Lions in a close game, a team that's not even in the playoffs. So I'm not sure what to expect in this game. Where the Packers, on the other hand, they've looked awful also the last few weeks. And I think these two teams that are on a downtrend facing each other in the playoffs. So I'm expecting an ugly game. I expect with the weather, it's going to be a cold, hard-hitting game between two rivals that ultimately might come down to overtime, just like the last game did. I think the Bears want it more, and I think the Bears are going to win by a field goal. But yeah, I can see the Packers winning too because LaFleur probably feels like his job is on the line.
Yeah, this has got to be the game where confused me the most out of all the games this week. And like I said, man, I was thinking I was going to come on here and say Chicago all throughout the whole week. And I'm gonna go with the Packers, man. I just like their history a little bit better. I like the fact that they can get that 110th win today on 110. And let's talk about some other things here. I do give Chicago a slight passing advantage in this game based on where their passing yards per game ranked compared to Green Bay's passing yards allowed per game, vice versa. Yeah, I give Chicago a slight passing advantage in this game. I give Chicago a good sized rushing advantage. JB talked about that. I give Green Bay a slight third down conversion advantage. Uh, Chicago, I give them a slight red zone conversion advantage. I give Green Bay a pretty good sized red zone attempts per game advantage. And I don't, and I'd like to hear your guys' take on this. I don't see a clear sacks on the quarterback advantage for either team in this game. Although, like the numbers, I guess, lead me to believe maybe Green Bay. But without Parsons, I mean, do you guys feel like, Chicago has a better sacks advantage on Green Bay than Chicago?
I I think Green Bay is still going to have a better advantage on getting to the quarterback. They still have Gary. It's not like he's not playing. They still have a good rushing attack. Just because Micah Parsons is gone doesn't mean they can't get to the quarterback. However, having said that, I think Caleb Williams is going to try and show off of that his leg magic. So I could see him getting sacked at least once in this game, but maybe not more. Maybe 1.5 sacks would be my take on for Caleb Williams.
And somewhere that's a place where the Bears are just really, really good at. Last season they were terrible. Caleb Williams got sacked. He was up there in the top 5 most sacked quarterbacks, I believe. This season, Chicago has protected him very well. They rank third in sacks allowed per game. So that's a big change for the Chicago team. Also, the turnover differential. I mean, Chicago ranks first in the NFL within turnover differential at plus 22. Green Bay +1. I think that's a part of the game where Green Bay absolutely has to focus on. Take care of the ball. You might not force a whole lot of turnovers on Chicago, but just take care of the ball, I think, is a recipe for success here today for Green Bay. So let's talk about Caleb Williams. You said you like his rushing attack today, Grim. I do see that Green Bay has allowed the 5th fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. I see that Caleb Williams over under the 22 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over that line in 7 out of 17 games this season. If we took that down to 15 plus, we're looking at 10 out of 17 games this season. He's had 10 plus rushing yards in 14 out of 17 games this season. But he's gone over this line in both career, the 22 and a half rushing line. He's gone over that line in both career games that he's played against Green Bay in Chicago, which is good for him today. He had 30 and 70 rushing yards at home in those games. Now, he's never rushed for a touchdown in 4 career games against Green Bay. But Caleb Williams has averaged more rushing yards per attempt at home than on the road in both seasons he's been in the NFL, which is a good trend if you like Williams rushing the line today. He has more rushing yards per attempt in games that his team loses rather than wins in both seasons that he's been in the league. So I'm thinking that since I'm on the Packer bandwagon today, I think the Bears are going to lose. I like Caleb Williams' rushing line even more, considering that he has more yards per rush attempts in games that he loses rather than wins. And then he has more yards per rush attempt on turf than grass in both seasons, which is a bad trend since this game is being played on grass. But he does have 2 other trends working in his favor today. How many rushing yards, roughly are you expecting from Williams today? And do you think he possibly gets in the end zone, Graham?
I don't think he's going to get in the end zone. I think his rushing yards are going to come more so on second, third down scenarios. I think he's probably going to get at least 15 plus. And because they attacked him, they saw this Micah Parsons less defense literally a couple weeks ago, and he ran for 30. So I think it's a good safe bet to say 15 for sure. I don't want to say over that because once again, this is a third time between these 2 teams, so I'm sure something is going to be planned.
Yeah. How are we feeling about that, JB? Do you like Caleb Williams 23 plus rushing yards today?
No, I'm gonna ride with Graham on that one. Just toggle it down a little bit.
Toggle it down to
Um,
15 plus.
yeah, maybe like, maybe give him like, yeah, 15 to 20.
Hmm. You
I
know,
think that's that sweet spot right in between.
and he did. I mentioned he's played 4 career games against Green Bay. One of the games that he played in Green Bay, he did get 15 rushing yards. The other one was 10. So if we took him at 10 plus, we're looking at 14 out of 17 games this season. Caleb Williams has had
Mm,
that, and then all 4 career games that he's played against Green Bay, he's had that. But once again, Caleb Williams has had no fewer than 30 rushing yards in the 2 career games that he's played against Green Bay in Chicago. Now, with that being said, JB, I know at the start you were talking about how you like Chicago's rushing attack. They rank third
yeah.
best in the NFL in rushing yards per game. Green Bay, they're slightly below average in rushing yards allowed per game. They ranked 18th to cap off the end of the season. So we have DeAndre Swift, running back for the Bears, over under 61 and a half rushing yards, and then Manungai, the other running back for the Bears, over under 44 and a half rushing yards. Which one do you feel like has a better chance of going over their rushing yards today, JB? And do you think either one of them getting to the end zone?
Mm,
And if you want a little bit more context here, I'm seeing that Green Bay, one of their vulnerabilities, man, is rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs. They rank 10th worst in that category this season. And then receiving touchdowns allowed to wide receivers, Green Bay was also vulnerable to. Those would be their 2 biggest vulnerabilities: rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs, receiving touchdowns allowed to wide receivers.
I
So
like Manungai and I like Burden.
Monungai and Burden.
Mhm.
Monungai to get into the end zone or to pick up the
Yeah.
yards or both.
Man,
He's
dude's good, bro.
yeah.
Dude's good.
I mean, he's played 2 career games against Green Bay, JB. He had 50 and 57 rushing yards in both of those games.
Right. Um, I don't see why he couldn't do it again.
Yeah. How are we feeling about that, Grim? Swift or Monungai?
So Green Bay didn't let up a rushing touchdown against the Bears this year. So that's something to look at. Green Bay let up 50 plus yards each game per rusher. So, they did let up 100 plus yards, but they did not bend when it comes to rushing touchdowns. Not for Caleb Williams, not for Monangai, not for Swift. So, having said that, I think the Bears are going to turn that, and one of their running backs is going to score today. And I think I agree with JB. I'm taking Monangai because in both games he's gone over 44 against them, and he's done a great job. So I would take Monangai today.
I'm seeing that DeAndre Swift has 1 receiving touchdown this season. Monungai has 0. So these are not really pass catching, touchdown scoring backs. And I just wanted to look that up just because Green Bay hasn't really allowed many. Actually, they haven't allowed a receiving touchdown to a running back all season. So I just wanted to see, that. So I definitely think that that somebody's going to have to do it on the ground. Um, Monungai has not scored a touchdown in any career game against Green Bay. DeAndre Swift has scored at least 1 touchdown in 4 out of 10 career games against Green Bay. I'm going to have to lean towards more so DeAndre Swift getting into the end zone for the Bears. Um, although I think I may rather look at a wide receiver, but we'll get into that here in a second. But yeah, I could definitely see, Swift getting into the end zone. Over under 61 and a half rushing yards for him. He's gone over that line in half of his games this season. If we took that down to 40 plus rushing yards for Swift, he's hit that in 13 out of 16 games this season. 30 plus rushing yards in 15 out of 16 games this season. Swift has only gone over the 61 and a half rushing line in 3 out of 10 career games against Green Bay. And then Monungai, 44 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over his line in 6 out of 17 games this season. So Swift does have a better success rate going over his line than Monungai. And then Monungai, once again, he's gone over that line, his 44 and a half rushing line in both career games that he played against Green Bay. So I think that I'd rather look for Monungai going over the 44 and a half rushing yards than Swift going over his 61 and a half rushing yards. But I would give Swift a bigger likelihood of getting into that end zone more than uh, than than Monungai. So yeah, let's talk about this wide receiving corp here for the Chicago Bears. And just for some context here, Green Bay ranked 18th in rushing yards allowed per game this season. They ranked 11th in passing yards allowed per game. So they are more vulnerable to that rush relative to other teams in the league. And and yeah, Green Bay ranks 11th in passing yards allowed per game. So I think Chicago, their recipe for success is establish that run. And the Chicago Bears like to call rushing plays. They rank 24th in passing play percentage. So relative to other teams in the league, they call a high percentage of rushing plays. Same with Green Bay. They rank 28th in passing play percentage. So I think both of these teams, strong points, at least with play calling, is reliant on that rushing attack. But let's talk about the passing attack a little bit here. Um, sh- uh, Green Bay ranks. They ranked. Hold up. They ranked about average, 14th best in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers and receptions allowed to wide receivers. They have, Burden on the Chicago side of the ball. Burden, Odunze, DJ Moore, JB. I think you said you like Burden in this one, JB.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I do. I like Burden in this one. Um, Dude, I went to go put a ticket in on them and play a parlay with them and well, one of the bears, and I picked the wrong bear. And 2 weeks in a row, and I seen this little grizzly just going off, man. So now I'm all in on the guy, and I he's a big part of their offense. I mean, here's the thing: is Odunze back yet? So we really got to look at because he
Yeah,
hasn't been playing the last 2 weeks.
yeah. Odunze is back, is what I'm seeing here. He does not have an injury designation going into this game. Um, but how many snaps he'll play
Right,
yet to be seen. So
right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah, I mean, good point with Odunze. Or Odunze is maybe he's not going to be playing at his at the full snap count. So that absolutely makes some extra room there for Burden and or DJ Moore. How are you feeling, Dollface Gremlin, on this receiving court for the Bears?
I would look for them to utilize DJ Moore a little bit today, and I'm willing to bet they're going to try and get Loveland involved a good bit as well. Um,
Ooh, I like that.
yeah, another tall guy who can stand well over any of their DBs. He's 6'6". And Colston Loveland has done a good job this year of coming in when he needs to. But also DJ Moore, he had a good game against the Packers. See, I'm starting to change my tune about the Bears right now because they barely beat the Packers, and the Packers played a lot of backups that last game. I'm looking at this information in front of me now. I'm really starting to change my tune. I don't know. I don't like what's going to happen
Oh,
here, but for the Bears, I think
oh.
they're probably going to use DJ Moore a little bit.
DJ.
I like the DJ Moore call for real. I really do. They do. That is one thing that I don't like picking the pairs. Like this game right here is really hard for me to pick
So
because both
tough.
teams have a lot of weapons. Yeah, yeah. Both teams have a lot of weapons. You don't know who they're gonna pull out of the hat that week. It's like pulling a name out of a jar. You don't know which one you're gonna get. You know, and so like I think like to be honest with you, I think the best bet is to go at it. Um, like I honestly, I go at it at halftime. Maybe not halftime. Maybe in second quarter. I see who's been the options on these. Who's the ball been going to, um, stuff like that. There's a guy, Denver Dave, on TikTok. He says the same thing though. I mean, he's leaning heavily on the Loveland receptions or TD. He likes Loveland for them for Chicago. I do too. I mean, I had him a little too high last week, but he still did his thing.
Yeah. We talked about Mumfield, right? I think he had some sort of an injury designation not too long ago. Is that wrong? Mumfield,
Yeah.
or
What's his
or he
face?
was just a sleepier player that people weren't talking about.
No, 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 no. Blessed Up said that he wasn't on there. They didn't have a slot for him. They said, "Watch, he's going to be the one to go off
Oh, yeah.
because there's no
It seems
slot
like
for
yeah,
him."
it seems like it's sometimes, especially in these games, big time games. It's like the sleepy players, people that
Yeah.
people are not expecting, the players that people are not expecting do well. We talked about Mumpfield potentially here for the Rams. I think here's another spot maybe where Odunze, people are a little hesitant on playing Odunze. They don't know how many snaps he's going to play and all that. But look, last that I checked, over under 32 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that line in 8 out of 12 games this season. That's a higher success rate than the other two. Have gone over their respective receiving lines today. Also, Odunze has gone over that line in his one game that he played versus Green Bay in Chicago. He had 65 total receiving yards. So I like Odunze, man. I think he is the best receiver there in Chicago. That's arguable, right? I mean, Burden does have a higher over under on receiving yards. I think that's potentially due to the potential snap count limitations that Odunze might see today. But
Mm.
that's who I would still lean towards going over their receiving line. But yeah, I mean, DJ Moore, he's gone over his 25 and a half receiving line in 6 out of 8 career games against Green Bay. Uh, and, out of those three guys, uh, DJ Moore is the only one that has scored a touchdown in a game against Green Bay. So DJ Moore has scored at least one touchdown in 2 out of 8 career games against Green Bay. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we were talking about how that's one of Green Bay's biggest vulnerabilities is the rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs and the receiving touchdowns allowed to wide receivers. So I don't know about the receiving yards or anything like that, but based on his history, man, I'm thinking DJ Moore is my favorite Chicago Bear to get into the end zone. And then it's going to be, Swift. Those would be the two guys that I would be looking at first and foremost. Um, and kind of want to, speed this up a little bit. If I were to go with a receiving prop for any of those running backs, Swift or my none guy, my first look would be receptions for either one of them. Swift has had 2+ receptions in 10 out of 16 games this season. If we took that to 1+ reception, we're looking at 15 out of 16 games this season. But here's the thing about DeAndre Swift. I saw his line at 1.5 over under receptions. He's gone over that line in 9 out of 10 career games against Green Bay. So 90%.
Mm.
Sample size too, and Green Bay has allowed the 11th most receptions to running backs this season. So that's who I would be going with. Now, Loveland, I think, we were talking about Loveland, maybe even a little bit of Cole Kmet in this one. Loveland has played 2 career games against Green Bay. He had 29 and 30 receiving yards. His over under today is 45 and a half. So I think that's a little bit high for Loveland. What do you guys think? Do you think that Loveland has 46 plus receiving yards. Green Bay did rank sixth best in receiving yards allowed to tight ends this season.
Don't they kind of line Loveland out as like wide receiver, kind of like in the slot, though? Kind of like Kelsey in his younger days, and what they're starting to do with Kyle Pitts out in Atlanta. I think they're starting to I think they're using him more on the outside. Um, oh man,
I'm thinking, I give Cole Kmet a bigger chance to go over his receiving line today at 13 and a half receiving yards, and I do Loveland at 45 and a half. I'm not saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
Loveland is a better player, or I'm not saying that Kmet's a better player, but, I think that's just a huge line difference, and I just like the success rate here for Cole Kmet with his line, not just going for let me just break it down like this. Cole Kmet over under 13 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in 11 out of 16 games this season and 9 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. So I just like that history there. I do not like Cole Kmet to possibly score a touchdown today. He has never scored a touchdown in 12 career games against Green Bay. And whereas Loveland he's scored a touchdown in 1 out of 2. So I'd give Loveland a better chance to score a touchdown, Kmet a better chance to get those receiving yards.
I'd also go with Loveland for a red zone score. If you're looking to you want to do something with Loveland, that's where he's going to get the most. It's going to be a red zone score. And I'm with you. I'd still take Kmet on yards, Loveland, red zone score.
Kmet over under 1.5 receptions. If somehow I don't know if the books will let you take that down to one plus reception for Cole Kmet, but he's had 1 plus reception in all 16 games this season. He's had at least 1 reception in 11 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. And Green Bay ranked 14th worst, so slightly below average in receptions allowed to tight ends this season. With that all being said, let's talk about this other side of the ball here for the Packers. JB, what do you think is the recipe for success? Who's got to be that X factor here today for the Green Bay Packers for them to come out on top?
Boy, man, Jordan Love probably. Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs. I think those two really got to stand out. Jordan Love's got to play good ball. You know what I mean? He's got to make he's got to make a statement, man. A lot of comparisons, a lot of people. Lester, he was talking about this morning. I heard him, trying to make a comparison of, the Packers and Brett Favre and Reggie White, and then going to Aaron Rodgers and having Charles Woodson, and now Jordan Love, and getting Michael Parsons. But Michael Parsons is hurt. He ain't playing. It's not the same. They ain't coming back. So, their keys, man, are gonna be stopping the run, stopping Caleb Williams, and establishing their own run and controlling the line of scrimmage. Making sure that Jordan Love stands upright and that they can get them yards, turn, move them sticks, move them chains. They got to move them chains. They got to keep Chicago on the sideline.
Yeah, and I mentioned that Green Bay ranks 28th in passing play percentage. So say that 5 times fast. So 28th in passing play percentage. So the Green Bay really does like to focus on running the ball. Both of these teams do. Green Bay even more than Chicago does in regards to their play calling percentage. With that being said, I think it's got to come down to Josh Jacobs today. Chicago's not good at defending against the rush. They have they rank 27th in rushing yards allowed per game. They allow big chunks of yardage when teams are rushing against them. They have allowed the 10th most rushing yards to running backs this season. Josh Jacobs over under 77.5 rushing yards. I think that may be a little bit too high. Let's see. He's gone over that line in 6 out of 15 games this season. And he's only gone over that line in 2 out of 7 career games against Chicago. But the most rushing yards that he's had at Chicago is 76 throughout his career. So I do think that that line is a little bit high for Josh Jacobs today. Now, the most rushing yards he's had against Chicago is 123. He has had a touchdown in 5 out of 7 career games against Chicago. But, I think maybe they need to get Emmanuel Wilson involved a little bit here. Maybe even Jordan Love rushing a little bit in this one. What do you think the recipe for success here today is for the Packers, Dollface Gremlin? Is it that rushing attack by Green Bay, passing, a balanced attack here?
I think it's going to be ball distribution. It's going to be, I think if you have a balanced running attack with Wilson and Josh Jacobs, yes, Jacobs is your primary, but Wilson has done a great job filling in for him this year, especially the last game against the Bears where he rushed for 82 yards on 2 more carries. And yeah, they were giving him more of the ball to give Jacobs a rest, but he did the damage. So I think they got to do a balanced rushing attack, and they've got to spread the ball out to all those receivers they have. They I want to say something hot here about the Packers fans. You guys think you don't have any weapons on your offense. You guys pull this woe is me story every year.
Mm.
I'm getting sick of it. I'm tired of hearing it. You have a
Oh.
bunch of good number 2 wide receivers, okay? I would rather have a bunch of good number 2s than have one number 1. And if you guys can't make that work, then that's your coach's problem. You need to stop whining about it. You got plenty of weapons. Stop your crying. Tucker Kraft is hurt, but you guys don't want to give the ball to Musgrave. You don't want to give it to him in the red zone. That's your fault. Stop your crying, Packers fans. You've got plenty of weapons. Distribute the ball today.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Emmanuel Wilson, man. So he's gone over those 15.5 rushing yards in 10 out of 17 games this season. He's gone over that in 3 out of 4 career games against Chicago. He's gone over that line in both career games that he's played at Chicago. He has more yards per carry on grass than turf in all 3 seasons that he's been in the NFL, which is a great trend because this game is being played on grass. So do you feel like decent about Emmanuel Wilson getting those 16 plus rushing yards there, Grim?
I definitely would. I definitely would. 16 plus for Emmanuel Wilson today. I think he'll have that possibly by the end of the second quarter.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's looking like a good look there. Like I said, I think I'd like his rushing yards more than Jacobs, but Jacobs, I like his potential to get in the end zone a little bit better there. Now, Jordan Love, over under 11.5 rushing yards. I had to look into that because Chicago has allowed the 4th most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. Jordan Love has gone over that 11.5 rushing line more times than not this season. 8 out of 15 times he's hit that. And if you're thinking about getting cute and taking that down to 10 plus rushing yards, guys, you're still looking at the same success rate this season, 8 out of 15. But it's when we take it to 5 plus rushing yards is when we're starting to look at 10 out of 15 there. Now, he's gone over the 11.5 rushing yard line in 2 out of 6 career games against Chicago. In the 2 games that he went over that line, he had 12 and 18 rushing yards, and both games were in Chicago, which is good if you guys like taking Jordan Love's over on rushing yards today. Jordan Love also has more rushing yards per attempt on the road than at home. In every season that he's been in the NFL, this is his 5th season, and that's a good trend if you like taking his over there today. And then he has more rushing yards per attempt in games that his team loses rather than wins in all 5 seasons that he's been in the NFL. So, I necessarily wouldn't put on the same ticket Jordan Love over 11.5 rushing yards and Packers money line. It would have to be one or the other, I think, just based on that split that I just mentioned, the fact that he has more rushing yards per attempt in games that his team loses rather than wins. So because I like the Packers to win this game, I would have to lean towards him not going over that rushing line. And, it was so close in the two games that he has gone over that line in Chicago, against Chicago. It was so close, 12 and 18. So, not necessarily something I'm looking to target here today. What do you guys think, though? Jordan Love over under 11 and a half rushing yards.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The two games against the Bears, yeah, he didn't play the full game last time, but he only had 7 and -1 in the first game. I don't like Jordan Love for rushing today.
JB, how are we feeling, man?
Nah, I don't like him either. Uh, I I I wouldn't play it
Okay, fair
or
enough.
do under.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so let's talk about all these number two wide receivers that Grim was just talking about. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Matthew Golden. I do want to mention one thing, and then I'm gonna see who you guys like the most in this game. Um, all before I'm not gonna waste everybody's time. I'm gonna look for it while you guys speak.
Denver Dev says, I'm here from Manungai, first TD, cash it, full confidence. He said also, here's an oddball prop. Gervon Dexter tackles plus assists. And I like that. I like doing those. I've hit quite often on doing them assists and tackles, like plus like either or, you know what I mean? Where they can get an tackle or assist or a sack or whatever. I love them. I think they're good. They're good money.
Guys, what I like to see, just because I'm a football nerd, I like to see like career highs. Which players have had the most receiving yards in a game against a certain team, or rushing yards against a certain team? What I found is that Christian Watson, he doesn't have the greatest history of going over his 56 and a half receiving line today against Chicago. He's only gone over that line in 2 out of 6 career games against Chicago, and 1 out of 3 career games at Chicago. However, in that game, he did go over. Christian Watson had the most receiving yards he's ever had in a game throughout his career, which was in 2024. With that being said, Dollface Gremlin, it seems like you have some pretty strong feelings about this Packers receiving corp. Who do you feel like today is going to stand out the most, or is it going to be just a little bit of everybody?
Yeah, I kind of like Christian Watson. Earlier this year, when he was the focal point of that passing attack, he had 2 touchdowns against the Bears. He was unstoppable against the Bears earlier in that game. The second game, where they barely played a lot of their starters, he didn't get a lot of the attention. He had 2 receptions for 17 yards. But then you look at the next one that stepped up. Guess who? Romeo Dobbs. Uh, I like this Green Bay receiving core, and I really think they're going to use Dobbs and Watson a lot today. I think Matthew Golden's going to get some scrapes, but I think it's going to be a Dobbs and Watson day passing wise.
And here's another interesting thing about Chicago's defense is that they have allowed the second most 20 plus yard receiving gains this season, and the sixth most 40 plus yard receiving gains this season. So I would really be looking for those guys for Green Bay who can pick up, who are consistent at picking up 20 plus yard receiving gains, 40 plus yard receiving gains. And I was just looking at Watson and Dobbs, and it looks like both of those guys fit the description there. I know that Watson has had 11 20 plus yard receiving gains, not games, gains, and 3 40 plus yard receiving gains this season. And then, Dobbs has had 12 20 plus and 2 40 plus. But the thing about Watson is that he, if I'm not mistaken, one of these guys, yeah, Watson. Watson, the funny thing about Watson is him and Dobbs have the same amount of touchdowns this season, but Watson has played 6 fewer games than Dobbs. Watson hasn't been in this entire season. So Um, that's definitely something worth considering if you guys are looking into like target share and all that stuff. You may see that Dobbs is the leader in those categories, in certain categories, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Watson hasn't played as many games this season. um, but with that being said, Chicago has allowed the seventh most receiving yards to wide receivers this season, and Watson over under 56 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in half of his games this season. If you wanted to take that to 50 plus, you're still looking at half of his games. He's hit that mark. Once we take Watson to 40 plus receiving yards, now we're looking at 8 out of 10 games. He's gone over that this season. And then I've already mentioned what he's kind of done throughout the against the Bears throughout his history. He hasn't had he hasn't been consistent, although it's been a small sample size. He's only played 3 career games at Chicago. And he only, went over that receiving line in one of those games, but he had a career high in receiving yards in that game. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards here again today is Christian Watson getting that done. If you guys like Jaden Reed, he's gone over his 35 and a half receiving yard line in 3 out of 5 games this season. If we took Jaden Reed to 30 plus receiving yards, we're looking at all 5 games this season. He's hit that mark. He's also had 30 plus receiving yards in 5 out of 6 career games against Chicago. He's had at least 23 receiving yards in all 6 career games against Chicago. That's Jaden Reed, by the way. Now, he's only scored a touchdown in 1 out of 6 career games against Chicago. But Jaden Reed has more yards per catch on grass than turf in all 3 seasons that he's been in the NFL, which is a good trend for this game since this one's on grass. And then Dobbs over under 30 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in 10 out of 16 games this season. If we take that to 20 plus, we're looking at 14 out of 16 games this season. But something else to consider is Dobbs may have benefited a little bit more just with Christian Watson being out for some of the games this season. So, I do see that Dobbs has a high success rate with going over that. But once again, that number could be a little inflated just based on the fact that, Watson hasn't been in for the entire year. But Dobbs did have 84 receiving yards in the only career game that he went over that line against Chicago. That game was at Chicago. Oh, I forgot to mention, Romeo Dobbs has only had he's only gone over that 30 and a half receiving yard line in 1 out of 6 career games against Chicago. But that one time that he did, he had 84 receiving yards. And then Dobbs has scored a touchdown in 2 out of 6 career games against Chicago. Now, with Matthew Golden, I don't have the history like the other guys. He is a rookie. Matthew Golden is. He's gone over his 13 and a half receiving line in half of the games this season. He has never gone over that line in both career games against Chicago. So that's not really somebody I'm looking for today. And that may be a reason why somebody in the audience may want to target Matthew Golden. I'm definitely overlooking him today. So maybe if enough people overlook somebody, that player is going to have a nice game. But with all that being said, we got Musgrave here. The tight end. Chicago has been better at defending against the receiving yards allowed to tight ends, more so than the wide receiver position. Chicago still is vulnerable to the receptions allowed to tight ends. Do you guys have any take on Musgrave today? Do you think Musgrave's going to get anything done?
They haven't got Musgrave a touchdown this whole year, red zone or otherwise. So they clearly do not like giving him the ball in that type of situation. I could totally see him maybe getting a couple receptions for like 15 yards. But in all honesty, I really think that you're not gonna see him utilized too much today.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned his lack of touchdowns this season, considering he has 0, because he also has never scored a touchdown against Chicago in 5 career games. But when I'm looking at his over under on receiving yards, He's had 22 plus receiving yards in 7 out of 13 games this season. Has gone over that 21 and a half receiving line in 3 out of 5 career games against Chicago. Um, and then he's had at least 38 receiving yards in his only 2 career games that he's played at Chicago. So I could see Musgrave, you know, going over those receiving yards today, like you were just mentioning. And then, the receptions. He's had exactly 3 receptions in his only 2 career games at Chicago. Last that I checked, his over under was 2.5. So I think that's cutting it real close. If we took it down to 1+, if you have a book that you can get it at 1+, he's hit that in 5 out of 5 career games against Chicago and 13 out of 13 games this season. With all of that being said, did we talk about Jordan Love's passing yards? If we didn't, they're at 222 and a half, and he's gone over that in 8 out of 15 games this season. So more times than not, he's hit that. He's gone over that line in 4 out of 6 career games against Chicago and 2 out of 3 career games at Chicago. The game that he did not go over that receiving line at Chicago was earlier this season when he got hurt during the game. With that being said, do you guys think Jordan Love has 223 plus passing yards in this game?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I do.
I think he will too. I don't
Yeah,
think the
I think
Bears
he-
defense is going to be strong enough today. I don't know. Something about the Bears passing defense just doesn't seem like it's going to stop him.
So Blessed Up P was talking about Wicks. So Wicks is out today, Blessed Up P. Wicks is out. And then so Bettors, I usually love taking Love for rushing yards, but he coming back from injury. I don't know if they're going to want him to rush the ball, especially if the Packers are up. This is actually a funny situation because there was a quarterback earlier this year, man. This is the time that I like to take player props sometimes, unless I know that there are going to be limitations on a certain player. But and even then, I still might like to do it. But I think there was a game earlier this year. Justin Fields came back from concussion protocol, and he was coming back in a primetime game. And I was like, oh, I love Justin Fields' rushing yards. And he ends up, getting his rushing yards. So I think if there's enough public disinterest in something like the Jordan Love rushing yards, especially since he's coming back from injury, I'm thinking that he actually might get it today. That's just
I would not. 6 games against the Bears, he's only averaged 5.8 yards a game. I would stay far, far, far away from any rushing with him.
Here's what I'll say, man. Jordan Love, I don't really like Jordan Love. In fact, I think Caleb Williams is a better quarterback. But Jordan Love is not somebody that I like, not somebody that I like to target with player props. But if you guys like Jordan Love, like Blessed Up P does here in the chat, if you like playing, he says that he specifically likes taking Love for rushing yards, but he's worried. The only reason why you're concerned is because of the injury. I say go ahead and, if it were me, I would go ahead and do it. But like Dollface Gremlin says, he doesn't like it today. Personally, I don't like it today just because I don't like Jordan Love at all. But if the injury is the only reason that's stopping you, what I'm saying is I don't let that stop me. In fact, I like it even more when players are coming off of injuries because the public just the public overlooks them. So, I don't like to fade the public all the time, but there are certain situations where I do like to, and these primetime games is a spot where I do like to fade the public more times than just on a regular, a game on at noon on week 5 in week 5. But that's just me, and with that being said, I don't know if I have a whole lot left that I want to talk about with this game. But who would be your favorite touchdown scorers in this game, guys?
I think Romeo Dobbs is going to stay in big head mode, and he's going to score today for the Packers. I think you're going to see his big old head get in the end zone. And I think for the Bears, I think JB and I think it's Monungai. I think Monungai's probably going to score today for the Bears.
I forgot who I was mentioning, but here's what I'll say about Watson is that he has more explosive touchdowns this season than red zone touchdowns. Watson has a 1 yard touchdown catch and a 17-yard touchdown catch. But he has 4 other touchdowns that were 23 plus yards, 23-yard touchdowns, 39, 41, 51. That's where I'm kind of leaning here is Watson to get a long touchdown catch in this game. And then I like DeAndre Swift for any of the Chicago Bears. What about you, JB? I may have said something earlier on in the show, though, guys. I'd maybe go back and listen to that. But off the top of my head, yeah, Christian Watson.
Yeah, this will also be dropped right on Spotify. It could take like about a half hour or so. But I'm gonna drop it. So if you guys do, you got something else to do, whatever, want to pop it in, hit that Spotify, or YouTube, or Amazon, whatever, we on there. It'll be on there. Pick up where from the beginning. But I like Monungai for the Bears. I kind of like a DJ more.
Yeah, no, blessed up Pete. It's DJ Moore, JB.
Yep.
Yeah, no, blessed up.
And then
that game, I liked Herbert going over rushing yards, and people are like, "What are you talking about? What are you doing?" He ended up having 50 plus that game, which I believe was like 9-1.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, actually, I remember that. I remember when he took off around that game. Yeah. I just, dude, I don't know, man. For Green Bay, touchdown guy, I like, man, I like Dobbs, like Graham said. Josh Jacobs, obviously, I want Josh Jacobs, I like him getting in there. I also think that Watson will get in the end zone. And dude's always getting in the end zone. It's like every week he's got something going on. Shout out Denver Dev, YCA, D holding it down in the chat over there on TikTok. Appreciate you guys.
Yep. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us and talking in the chat. Even if you're not talking in chat, just hanging out with us. We really
just tapping the screen is awesome. Yeah. Hey, GPF Live TV. I've seen you. You've been sitting here the whole time. I appreciate you. You ain't said nothing. You ain't got to. I've been watching. QM. Yep. Hey, you just dipped. All right, whatever. But hey, Denver Dev says Bears TD, give me Loveland. Packers TD, give me Musgrave to break
Loveland
down
and Musgrave tight end game.
Yep.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes here, guys, and yeah, I would go with Watson as my favorite touchdown scorer for Green Bay, simply because that's where Chicago is most vulnerable in regards to touchdowns allowed this season. And Watson has the same amount of touchdowns as Dobbs does, and Watson has played 6 fewer games. Also, the Bears do give up long passing gains. So I do think Watson is going to get, a 21 plus yard touchdown catch in this game. based on just this information that I'm looking at. And those are the two leaders in touchdowns on the Packers behind Jacobs, so and then once again, I like Swift for the Bears. Swift touchdown. That's what I'm thinking too. Blessed up P. I just like his history. 4 out of 10 career games he's found the end zone against Green Bay, compared to Monungai's 0 out of 2. But anything can happen any given Sunday. I don't think it's much of a long shot. I don't think it's a big stretch saying that you think Monungai will get into the end zone today. I do think that's very possible. So. But do you guys have anything else you wanted to add on this game, or should we get into the final score predictions here?
I'm ready.
Personally, yeah, I'm ready.
JB, we'll start with you. We'll start with you, man. Let me go check what the over/under is for this game. Over/under is at 45.5 points. Give me your final score prediction there, JB, whenever you got a second, if you don't mind. Please.
Which game are we doing first?
No, we already did the first game. We're doing Green Bay and Chicago.
Green Bay, Chicago. Okay. Oh, yeah, because I had a 3-point game in the last one. It was like 24-27.
Yeah.
This one, I'm going to say... this one's gonna be. I think this one's gonna hit. Like 31-28. Chicago.
Ooh.
Okay. Dollface Gremlin.
This was the toughest out of all the playoff games for me to gauge because both teams ended the season just on a lousy foot, right? Both teams just looked really bad. I'm sticking with the Bears pick. Honestly, in my heart, I really do believe the Packers are going to win. I don't know why, but this is how I feel. But given what I've seen the last few weeks, I think it's going to be a Bears win. I think it's going to be a fourth quarter game. And I think we're looking at something like 28-26.
28-26 in this one. So you both think this game goes over the 45.5 projected total. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say the Packers win this game 21-20. So what? That would mean that I have both underdogs covering today. I don't like that. But whatever.
You guys shake it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's up, Bucks, right? Ball, Bucks Nation, Omar, Max, Chiefs, let's go, baby. See you guys.
But yeah, give me the Packers to win this one, 21-20. Although, yeah, I guess that's what I'm just going to have to go with. Both the underdogs cover today, but both of the underdogs to lose. Because Green Bay is favored, right? Yeah, by 1.5. So, but all right. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add? Sponsors or anything? JB or Gremlin? Gremlin's good with the.
Yeah, guys. I tell you what. You follow Not Move, you're gonna get all the deals today. Me, my guy, my wife, Not Moved, went through the Walmart portal, got some Walmart groceries, a little bit of discounted price. Certain items you're gonna go through our shop. You're gonna get some love from Not Moved. You're gonna go to what is it, JB? Nubby. My Dubby energy drinks.
Yeah.
Dubby energy drinks. Use that code Not Move. You're gonna get some good stuff. MyBookie.ag, Not Moved. Use the code. You're gonna get some percentages towards everything. And if you just go to the fourth wall link we got, man, you're gonna see we got an MLB shop, we got an NFL shop. Like I said, we got the Walmart store that we get to use anytime. It just gives us a little bit of traffic to show that everybody's giving that Not Move love, which we want and we appreciate from all of you. But use our links, use the code Not Moves. You're always gonna get rewarded.
Facts. Yes. We also be doing giveaways, but you can also get those links down in our at our store. It's down in the right hand corner right there. Not move-shop.fourthwall.com. You guys go on there, man. You guys can also just take a picture, use your phone, snap a picture of that little box up there in the left-hand corner, top of the screen, QR code. It's a link straight to there. If you scroll down, it'll bring you to some of the sponsors, Open Goal, mybookie.ag, like Gremlin, my guy touched on, everything. You know what I'm saying? You go right there, it brings you right to the Not Moved profiles, their creator links profiles. Some of them, like my w.gg, go to w.gg, try this energy drink out. If you're gamers and you're going to the gym, working out, even just, if that's just your thing, drinking energy drinks, man. Hey, use promo code not moved to get you 10% off. You guys can use it unlimited. They got all sorts of flavors. They got all sorts of merchandise. On top, speaking of merchandise, when you go to not move shop.fourthwheel.com, we got our merch there. You go support one of the members, a certain member, whatever. You want to even put in your own ideas of a shirt. If you want your name or your PFP on it with the not move thing, man, put it in the there's a link down in the bottom. You can leave a message. You ain't got to tip nothing or leave nothing. No donation required. You can go and leave a message what you would like, leave your name, and man, we can make it happen. You can put it out there and you can get it. And just let us know, man. We got jerseys, man. Got it. I'm good, Bettors.
Cool. Yep, I'm good too. Thanks again, guys, for joining, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to let you guys know I'm not going to be as prepared as I was today for the upcoming games, but I still do have some good stuff, and it's fun hanging out with you guys here in the
Absolutely.
audience and all that. So,
Yep.
yeah,
everybody on Twitter, thank you guys so much. Hey, you guys, shout out. You guys go follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, over there also on Twitch. At Not Moved Podcast, also at Not Moved Pod. That's how you find us on Twitter at Not Moved Pod. You can Not Move Podcast. We got a social page on Facebook. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere that you could think of and imagine. Discord. We got our own Discord group. Over 120 members. Getting where you fit in, guys.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Good luck to
All
you.
right, bro.
See
Look,
you
yo.
guys.
Hey, we'll also be streaming the games live on TikTok. We got 2 options for you. If you guys don't want to hear us talk, hey, tough BS. We're going to. The thing is, man, me and my crew, we pay for it. You guys don't. Taps are free, but you guys won't even tap it. You guys ask us to be quiet. But we got another area where you guys can go on TikTok where ain't nobody talking. You can turn that screen fully way you guys, some of you guys want it. And you guys can comment, talk about it in the chat quietly, and listen to the game, peace and quiet, however you want it. 2 options. Where I want to float your boat, we got it. Stay not moved.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Moved Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.